Welcome to Two Non-Doctors. I'm Liz Mealy.
I'm Maria Shahada.
We pre-talked about how sad everything is right now. And then, sometimes I get my chats ready. Like, oh, I don't want to be on the podcast and have nothing to chat about. Can I just tell you what it says written down for the chat?
Yeah.
Man shouts out chicken nuggets and meows while I'm on stage.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Because I was literally just talking about how devastated I am about Afghanistan before this podcast starts. And then I look at what I had prepared as what I wanted to tell you.
Yeah.
And it's about how angry I was on Friday because a guy kept meowing. I ignored it. And then in the middle of a joke, shouted out chicken nuggets. And I flipped out at him. Flipped out.
Did we already talk about this?
We might have.
I know I've heard the story.
Yeah, I either said it on another podcast or I talked to you about it as a person.
Did we do it on this podcast?
I wonder if it was on a bonus.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. We don't even have to talk about it because it seems so trivial compared to everything that is happening in the world. Because my level of, me, I'm just such an angry person that I could literally talk about the devastation in the world and someone pissing me off on stage at the same level.
Oh, totally. Totally.
That's where my white ladiness is very confusing because I do get very angry about trivial things. Being disrespected in my craft, I don't want to say it's trivial, but in comparison does feel trivial. But at the same time, it's not COVID stuff and earthquake in Haiti and Afghanistan and Taliban. I'm like, you're down here and my needs are here. They're about the same level of anger and sadness. I know this should definitely be higher.
I know, but I get what you're saying. It's I've gotten a lot of guys trying to intimidate me. This happened at Top Secret the other day. Just as I was walking to the stage, this guy was like, do it. But it felt very like he was trying to get in my head or something.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you can't fuck with me, dude. Yeah. It's not going to work.
I've thought about it more and more because I get the theory that us being on stage is a threat, but what I don't understand is how a guy goes on stage and it's like, oh, I wonder what he's going to talk about. And then a woman goes on stage and it's like, fuck whatever she's going to talk about. Why does the wonder?
Do you think it's because a lot of times female comedians use the stage time to shit on men? Do you think?
I also have a bunch of shitty men jokes too, but it's just they have shitty women jokes. It's also why is it this is a place where we shit on everybody? Why is it?
It's even the women. Sometimes, how people look at you right before you go on stage. People love to turn around and see the comedian first.
Yeah.
And you just, and they look at you and they just go, "Oh, it's a woman." You can see it. You can see it in their face, just kind of fall.
Yeah, I literally. It doesn't happen at the cellar because they bag their phones. I do feel like guys are like, no, on my phone. But in other clubs, they literally take out their phones or they get up to go to the bathroom because I'm walking on stage. And it's funny because I know how to get people kind of right away and it's fine for the most part. But I think what bothers me. So I was dressed in a skirt and a cat shirt. That's kind of how they were why they were meowing probably. But
probably.
But I wear cat shirts all the time. Why am I being meowed at? But Adrienne Appalucci was just like, well, you looked pretty. And I was like, how is that? I've been doing so much mental work about it doesn't matter what I look like. I can handle any audience and I shouldn't have to dress down or dress asexual to have people pay attention to me. And I've worked on it for years and it was 95 degrees and I could not put myself in pants. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I'm wearing a skirt and a t-shirt, a t-shirt up to my neck. You couldn't even tell that I had boobs. But the fact that my legs were out, the fact that I looked like a woman, it just sucks that we're constant. And I had to decide, do I want to be comfortable or do I want to do well on stage? And it's just so, and I don't have to make that decision with my own audience, but you know, right now I'm not touring and everything I'm doing is this showcase thing where it's just a bunch of comics. Nobody really knows who's on stage. But it's so funny. I was so angry this weekend where I'm tired of always having to prove myself. And the alternative is just only perform for your fan base or become famous. But, you know.
Yeah, I always say I'm in this sort of where the wave breaks part of my it's just like I'm not at the open mics in the nice calm open mic stage.
Yeah.
I'm at the clubs on a Friday, Saturday night where they want to see famous comedians and they're getting me and they're mad.
It was
and I need to get into the deeper part of the water where it's my own fan base and I'm just
yeah.
stuck in this being waves breaking on me part of my career.
I was telling a story yesterday. This was from 10 years ago. I was at Gotham Comedy Club. Oh, no, Caroline's Comedy Club. And showcase show. And I think it was Gaffigan that walked in and the host was like, oh, we got a special guest. You know, we're so excited to have him. Please give it up for Jim Gaffigan. And this is peak Jim Gaffigan time. And the audience is like, wow, this is great. Murders. And then the host goes, hey, we have another special guest. Give it up for Liz Neely.
Oh, no.
What? You can't use the same language. You said special guest, and then the biggest comedian in the world right now comes on stage. You can't use that for me. So I walk on stage and I was like, I think we can all agree I'm a less special guest, right?
Yeah.
Murdered. And it set the tone and it was a great set. But it was just when he was saying it, I was like, no.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Yeah. What? You can't do that to me. And it doesn't help that we look young, and it doesn't help that we look just like we're just small people. And then I even start very calm. I bring the tone down and I slow it down because I want to slow it down. I want it to be at my pace. And I feel like some people think that's nervousness when really I'm like, no, I want to control this room. I'm controlling this room in this tone.
Yeah, no, it's the opposite of nervousness because a lot of comedians would be tempted to keep up that pace and keep it going and be quicker and louder and just the loud thing. Sorry, it's just one thing that bothers me about especially newer comedians because they equate loud with energy.
Yeah.
If they're screaming their jokes at you, yeah, I'm energetic. You have to listen.
Yeah, chill out. I don't know. These are, like I said, trivial things to be angry about, and I haven't worn a dress since. I can tell it really bothered me.
Yeah, there's a door that the wind keeps shutting it, and it keeps opening up and shutting again. I'm just gonna go.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna go shut.
I thought you were doing a metaphor. I was like, oh, this metaphor is so interesting.
The doors in our life, you know how they keep opening, and then the wind blows them shut.
Yeah, all the opportunities.
But you have to take it upon yourself to make sure that door stays open.
But right now I have to shut it.
I'll be right back.
Announcements?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you to all our Patreons, everybody that supports us. We are beyond grateful. If you don't know, you can get weekly bonus episodes. You can get monthly bonus episodes. You get stickers. You can get my book signed. You can get stand-up of ours. You can control our Googles. You could be a Google guest. There's so many wonderful things. A couple of people in the comments were suggesting Googles, and I politely was like, hey, I would love to Google that. We have a tier for that. We have a tier for that. But yeah, it doesn't take much to support us, but that support really goes a long way and really helps us. Yeah, thank you for everybody that does all the things that support us.
Thanks, everyone. You can follow us on the socials. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at 2non-doctors. It's the number 2 full word doctors. And on Instagram at 2non-DRS. And if you have time, please leave us a rate and review. It helps us out a lot. It helps us get seen, and we love it. We are very happy, and we share it on our social medias, and we're like, look at this. And I think this might be the last week that I bother you all with tickets for my album recording. It's probably not sold out, but it might be sold out by the time you hear this. I don't know.
It will be sold out. Get your goddamn tickets.
Yeah. Bill Murray in London, August 30th. It's a Monday. It's a holiday.
Bill Murray's a venue.
God, sorry. Let me try.
At the Bill Murray. You're like, Bill Murray.
He will be there live and in person.
We'll see. We're going to use the word at the Bill Murray.
All right. Sorry. Okay. So it's at the Bill Murray, August 30th in London, 6 and 8 p.m. Tickets are £8 in advance, 10 at the door. Come immortalize yourself on my comedy album.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm touring in September, all out and about. Everything's on my website. Buy my book.
Buy your book. Leave a review for that too. Man, you got a lot of reviews. Just copy and paste reviews.
You guys got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of homework that goes on. You have to write to us. You have to come to our shows. You have to give us money. You have to rate and review everything. I'm so sorry. Being a fan of ours is a lot of work.
It's exhausting.
But we give you stickers. So
yeah,
I think it all works out.
Yeah.
Fan mail?
Okay.
All right. This is from Angelo on Instagram. He said, love the new episode. I learned about the 5 love languages a few years ago. Growing up, and especially as a child, I wasn't hugged or shown a lot of affection. I was also socially awkward and had anxiety, which I didn't know about until a few years ago. So I grew up not knowing how to be affectionate and not wanting to be touched. I literally hit my principal with a metal lunchbox in kindergarten because he grabbed my hand. Little laughy face. So I'm glad physical touch is so high now. I love being touched and I love touching. That sounds kind of creepy when typed like that. LOL. We understand, Angela. I honestly really related to this. Like, I did not grow up with a lot of affection. I really was like weirded out, still a little weirded out by being touched and stuff like that. But also it's important to me. And I know that, and I've gotten better about being affectionate with my friends. Clearly I'm affectionate with partners, but it's like, it's weird for something to be a trigger for you, but also something you long for. And I think originally with the love languages, my first thought was like, well, it's bottom on my list, when really it's pretty high up. I just, didn't know how important it was to me because it was never in my wheelhouse. It was never something I really grew up with. Also, I'm related to him being like, oh, I had anxiety in my childhood and I didn't know. I was having panic attacks while doing gymnastics when I was 12 and had zero idea until I was 25 that that's what was happening.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Just no idea.
Yeah.
Like, I quit gymnastics. I was just like, oh, I'm not good at it anymore. And I was like, oh, I was having full-fledged panic attacks and being yelled at.
What were you panicking about? Oh, because you were being yelled at by the instructors?
Yeah, but also like, how anything works, but it's much scary as a gymnast, as you can see from the Olympics. I would be doing a back handspring on a balance beam. I would slip, I would straddle the beam, which you get this huge bruise on your inner thigh. It hurts, it's scary. You thought you almost died, you fell off a beam, you're all frazzled. And then you have some like tiny Russian lady being like, again. And you're like, you're like, Olga. Her name was Olga. You're like, Olga, like, give me a second. Like, I'm crying, I'm bruised, I'm sad. Like, Jesus Christ. And then she would make you do it again. And I'm like, literally like freaking the fuck out. I have no time to process. Like, I get back on the horse, but like, give me a second. Yeah. Like, but I was, and then I would be in competition and it was too much for me. And like, I even see it with my anxiety. Like, the other day I was doing a normal spot. There was nothing unique about it. It's a club I'm comfortable in, no stakes whatsoever. And I started having like a rushing, and I was like, I literally had to be like, stop. Yeah. This doesn't matter. And like, I had to like say that in my head as they're announcing my name, because for no reason I started to be like truly like heart palpitations.
It's weird how your nerves are like a dog that's just started barking uncontrollably. You're like, what are you barking at? Stop it. Here's a biscuit.
I don't even see the mailman. So it's either a ghost or you thought you saw the mailman. Yeah. Like, what is it?
The same thing has happened to me. And like, there are a couple clubs here in London that they like me, they book me. There's no pressure. There's not, the audiences are always good. Do you know what I mean? And then I'll still feel that. And I'm like, what is your problem? Like, stop it.
Yeah. So I can understand if there's certain things, but like, sometimes I think, am I seeing something that I don't like, I'm not consciously seeing, or did a thought come into my head and I'm not like acknowledging it? But like, it was so weird, and it still happens all the time. And sometimes I get it where I'm like, oh, the booker's watching, or, oh, this is important because it's an audition. But this was like, I cannot tell you, like, Tuesday night, no stakes, audience seemed good, like you said, a club that I bomb at and nobody cares, like beloved as a human and a comedian. And I'm like, what if this goes bad?
Yeah.
What?
It's crazy.
But back to like what Angelo was saying, I think what's important about love languages is understanding why they might be important to you and why they might be lower on your list or higher on your list, which is, I think it's just always interesting for something that you grew up not having to be high on your list and realizing that the lack of it is the reason that you're drawn to it. Like I wasn't. And also I know I put off vibes of don't touch me and I have to work on that. Like, I don't like people touching me from behind. That really like freaks me out. And I think that's logical for most women. But I was standing outside on the sidewalk, okay? And a comic put his arm around me, but I don't know it's a comic. And he's my friend, but I don't know it's a comic. So I feel something and I was like, ah, like I truly like was it. And he's like, hey, I'm sorry. And I was like, hey man, I have stalkers. There are creepy people out there. There's just general men. There's homeless people. I was like,
Yeah.
in a comedy club, that is very different than on the streets.
That happened one time. After I was doing a show, and then Johnny was doing another show with his flatmate, and we just happened to come off the same train, and I was so excited, and I run up behind Johnny and I grabbed his backpack, and he turned around like about to swing at me, and I was like, oh shit, I'm so sorry. And he was like, what are you doing? You can't grab my backpack.
This is London. You're in at nighttime.
I was like, this will be fine.
I'm being robbed by the tiniest lady. What a confident tiny robber. You're like, man, London has gotten rough out there. But yeah, thank you, Angelo. Thank you for writing in. So happy you enjoyed that episode. What did you Google this week?
You mean, what did I Google 5 minutes ago while you were talking?
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to figure out, I had I did nothing. Let's preface it by saying this. All I did, I think I turned and my whole lower right side of my back was like, fuck you, and just went out. And I went, oh, I couldn't, like I was paralyzed. Like I couldn't move. Had a difficult few days of being mobile. I had to cancel yoga. But it's hard when you've not gone to yoga for a few days and then you cancel yoga. I'm like never going back to yoga now. Like I'm out of the thing.
You're out of the cycle. Also, It's like yoga, you were supposed to prevent this. This is yoga's fault.
But this is a part of my back there's been a couple times I remember being on a military tour. It happened then. There's been a couple times where just my back will go out for a few days. Huh?
Lower back?
Lower right back.
It sounds like stress, but continue.
Oh, I love that. Not that just there's a muscle that got fucked. It's stress. Yeah. What do you think I'm stressed about? God, I don't know.
Can't imagine. I would say your hour taping and the world all at once.
Yeah.
All the time.
The world is falling apart from every front. You haven't seen Game of Thrones, but there's literally like threats from every side. It's like the North versus the South, but the North and the South have to get together because then there's these crazy ass zombie armies happening, and if they don't take care of that, then, and that's what I told Johnny, I was like, that's what the world feels like right now. Like the vaccines are an issue and Afghanistan is an issue, and if we don't figure out climate change, none of it's going to be an issue. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. Like it really is, where you're just like, oh, something we can't see is attacking us, something that is huge and over there is attacking us, then the whole world is attacking us, and then there's just morons on top of it. Like it's just like,
I know. So if like one little thing goes wrong with me, I'm like, oh, everything is so fucked.
Totally, because it used to be like a bad day was when everything went wrong, but everything's already going wrong. So all it takes is like I stubbed my toe and I was like, oh, of course it would happen today. Fully freaking out.
Yeah. So it's like I was uncomfortable no matter what position I was sitting in and all that. So I was trying to find like some answers to this. And so there's this penmedicine.org gives me 4 reasons. One is tissue injuries. Muscle strain symptoms include limited range in motion, which is I had, tenderness or swelling. I think probably tenderness, no swelling, muscle spasms. Maybe that's what that was. Pain that improves with rest, ice, or like Advil. maybe. I didn't try any of those. And pain that worsens after sitting or getting out of bed. That's me. So I think that was muscle strain. Then there's bone issues, internal organ problems, and emergency symptoms, and then it doesn't list them. Cool.
I mean, we did an episode on this and we've talked about this a lot. It is stress. To injure yourself for no reason. Like if you got in a
you know, this should have been the Google. Actually, I fucked up. I did wear heels for the first time for 2 days in a row, and they're chunky heels, like they're chunky boot heels.
Mhm.
But I wore them for 2 because I got these bell bottoms and it just fucking looked great.
Oh, you
Like,
were
my
talking about
legs
this. Yeah,
looked longer, and I was just so happy. I was like, look, I'm tall again. And then somebody was like, I went to a show, and then this guy Nico was like, did you do a corporate event or what's going on? I was like,
Nico's like, you look nice. Why?
yeah, I so rarely look nice. I was like, because I had your earrings on. I was like, I just wanted to look nice. What's wrong with that?
I wanted to look nice for my earrings.
Yeah.
That is so funny. I've come from like an event or a date, and they're just like, what? No.
Yeah.
No.
What are you doing?
What are you doing? You're usually wearing a sweatshirt looking like you just missed a bus. Like,
yeah. So I should have Googled, like, do heels fuck up your lower back? Because I think that's why.
I know, but you don't do like that's what I'm trying to say with stress correlating to back pain is that you're trying to justify why the pain is there. So you're looking for signs when really it's stress.
Why don't you believe that, like, physically I fucked it up from wearing heels?
Because that's not how it works. You're a healthy person. If you were an unhealthy person, let's say if you got into a car accident and you've always had chronic weird pain, or you were somebody that sits and never moves, or somebody that was like 400 pounds, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a healthy person that got up and randomly strained their back. And that's what Dr. Sarno's book is literally talking about, is that we try to justify it. We try to say, oh, I wore heels that day, or, I sat at my computer extra long that day or whatever, when really, if you sit down and think about it, you've been probably like this tight little wide without acknowledging it. And then this is your body trying to send a message that you're overwhelmed. And what I've learned, because this has happened to me so many times where like I've done nothing, there's no reason that I should not be able to get out of bed. And then I will like talk to myself. I'll be like, oh, I'm stressed about this. I'm overwhelmed about this. This is and I'll like, it sounds so crazy. And something that used to be months of pain will be maybe 2 days of pain. And I think the same way that I can always be annoying about therapy, because it's like absolutely changed my life to a point where like I can't even imagine I lived the way I did. I was so unhappy. I feel the same way about acknowledging how my mental state affects my body, because I've had so many issues with my lower back that have been solved. And I've done everything from acupuncture to chiropractor to resting to stretching to, like, I've done everything. And the thing that has always fixed it immediately is taking time to acknowledge how overwhelmed I am, and just believing that it'll go away and this is without meditation, by the way. This is just kind of like mental journaling and physically journaling.
Yeah, I have just been complaining that I feel overwhelmed, but I think maybe I should do something productive.
But I've also been 100% where you are. And I know whether you are feeling overwhelmed or not, like whether it's like at the precipice, like it's like you can feel it and you're talking about it, or like you just don't even acknowledge it. Like I don't start using the word stressed until I'm breaking apart at the seams, when the truth of the matter is I'm always just kind of hovering at an absurd level of stress.
I don't believe that you've ever actually been relaxed.
Totally valid. But I've been where you've been, and it is stressful. There's so much unknown. There's so much at stake. There's so much you care about that it's hard to relax and not be constantly at some point thinking about what you have to do or get done or how it's going to turn out or what this means, that I know what state you're in.
Yeah.
So it's stress. You don't need to Google, because I'm here.
So I texted you and I was like, fuck these people. And you're like, well, here's an explanation as to why they're acting this way. And I was like,
no,
fuck those people.
And it's funny when you text me like that kind of stuff. It's like, well, I don't want to dismiss how you feel, because I also feel that way often, in general. But also, you're just gonna, everything's gonna bother you right now. You're gonna be. I mean, I've been in that state. I think we both, for different reasons. And then again, Game of Thrones world shit is being thrown on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is just a massively stressful time.
Yeah. Remember like 2 weeks ago, I was like, you're gonna get a lot of this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm freaking out. How do I do this exact thing? And like, what do I do? And I'm like, I can't think for myself. Can you think for me? Whenever you've done Edinburgh, right? Like, do you remember how stressful Edinburgh was? Like you're doing 24, 25, 26 shows in a row. It was so all consuming that if anyone who wasn't at Edinburgh like tried texting me, I was like, I couldn't even get back to them. I was like, you just have no idea what this is.
Yeah.
I can't
It,
even begin to explain it.
it feels like, and I don't have any prior knowledge to this, I just know people that have had babies, but it feels like having a baby every day. Like every day I have to prepare for this baby, and it has financial and future consequences. Like, I have 2 friends that are pregnant right now, and so I check in with them, and they
I'm
have
sure
like
they
this
would love
app.
this metaphor, but yeah.
Eventually the baby leaves their body, and it just felt like every day I birthed it and it went back in, and I had to rebirth it. Um, and then someone reviewed it. Like, it would be like if I had a baby and someone's like, the nose is kind of weird and its head is misshapen. And you're like, I was stressed that day, and there was only 40 people in the audience.
Yeah.
But like, I have 2 friends that are having babies right now, or like they're pregnant right now. And like, I'm keeping in the loop with them. They have an app that tells them what fruit size. Like, I'm like, what fruit is your baby? My friend's like, a banana. And I was like, congrats on your weird shaped baby. But like every day, it's a kumquat. What's a kumquat? I don't even know if that kumquat is how it's supposed to be said. But it's interesting to me because it is this, when they talk to me and leave me messages, it's like, I'm excited, but I also know my life is going to be completely different in however many months. And how do you prepare both for what's immediately going to happen, but also the rest of my life with the thing I don't know about? And I feel like everybody's weirdly in this state right now, which is like, how do I prepare for 2 weeks from now when I don't know if the country's going to be closed? I don't know if I'm going to have a job. I don't know if I'm going to be able to leave the country. I don't know, what's going to be safe and not safe. It's like, it is. And that's on a bigger level, but that's on a basic level. Like, I feel weird even telling people I'm touring, because half the places I'm touring are on fire, either physically or scientifically on fire. It's insane. And I think Edinburgh in some ways prepared us for that, because it's super stressful. It's super important. There's a lot of money lost. You have no idea. But at the same time, you're like, this is just one aspect of my life. I can't even imagine. I keep asking my friends, like, is the world literally on fire and the worst it's ever been? Or am I just in my 30s and somebody that's paying attention?
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure this is the worst it's ever been.
Oh, good. Makes me feel less like I'm complaining.
Yeah.
Should I tell you what my silly Google was?
Yes, please.
It's related. How do you soothe a nervous stomach versus like an upset stomach? So I have been stressed out of my mind, and I now can tell the difference between I ate something wrong and I'm upset, and I like, because a lot of it has to do, I wake up with a stomach ache, which is what's happening, is I wake up like, keep in mind, I've done every different thing from, okay, maybe it is food, so I'm just not going to eat late at night, to maybe I didn't eat enough, or maybe I ate something. Like, I've tried everything, and I keep waking up with an upset stomach. And that's how I know it's like a nervous stomach or like stress. They say avoid dairy, caffeine, chocolate, soda, tea. Was pretty
All the
much
things I
doing that.
love. That's literally all I eat.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's my food pyramid.
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like, fuck you. It's like chocolate at the top, and then dairy. I mean, actually, no, reverse it. Chocolate at the bottom. Sorry.
Yeah.
I forgot how a pyramid works. Maybe coffee's at the top. I'm like 4 cups of tea, but it says stress relieving activities like exercise, journal, music, talking to friends. And then it says ginger and peppermint tea. I love how like they're like, hey, talk to your friends about stress or eat a peppermint leaf. The internet is so, I've been doing this line on
Consider
stage.
psychotherapy or sniff some dill.
The internet is that ridiculous though. And I'm like that ridiculous where I'm like, I journaled. Why don't I feel better? But I've been exercising more. I do think that helps a little bit. I have been journaling. Honestly, when you were sending me new music and I've been like trying to get into new music because it does at least temporarily put a pep in my step where I'm like, and then I over listen to it and it loses all its ability.
100%.
I think what's hard for me is that I have stomach issues. So when it's not a physical thing, I get like panicky where I'm like, oh, this is now another thing where I'm like, oh, maybe I need to take out gluten and dairy and get really strict again because I'm waking up every morning with a stomach ache. But the truth of the matter, based on pretty much everything we've ranted about this episode, the world's on fire. I have my own personal things I'm stressed about. I am uncomfortable. Like, and my body is like, hey, just in case you didn't know, you're really stressed. And it's like, yeah, body, I know. I fucking know.
Yeah.
So it didn't really tell me anything that I didn't already know and that I'm not already doing. And I guess it's somewhat better because at first I was waking up where my stomach hurt so much that I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't eat. But then that was making it worse. And then actually eating kind of made me feel better because it wasn't, I put something bad in my stomach and my stomach's freaking out. It was my body's upset and it's not doing the back pain thing it usually does. It's doing the stomach ache thing that it likes to be doing this year. This year's the year of the stomach ache. But yeah, it wasn't really helpful.
Nervous stomach makes me, it feels more like homesickness or something. It just, there's a different feeling. And then actual like acidic stomach, like physically just feels like I want to vomit.
Yeah.
And not an emotional wanting to vomit. Weird. I don't know how to articulate this at all.
Yeah. No, it's also even in my stomach, it's a tightness. Like I've noticed it's like, it's a tightness and it almost feels like somebody's like taking my stomach and holding it really tight as opposed to like an upset stomach is my stomach almost feels like gargly. Like it's almost like, hey, there's some stuff in here.
Nuts right now. It's like,
yeah, it's almost like, guys, there's something in here I don't like. He's being mean to me. So I can tell like just even the tightness of it is just almost like my stomach being like my entire body. Like you ever go in, like you walk into a room and somebody's like scream fighting, hello, my childhood. And you're like, oh no. And like, you just try to get small and just try to fade away. Like that's how my body feels where I'm just like, ooh, everything's uncomfortable here.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get my shoes, but maybe I'll just leave without shoes. Like you're just like, ee. So I think it's just like my stomach almost trying to like be invisible. Like, hey, things are kind of crazy. Maybe we'll just
gonna disappear.
yeah.
Got its own stomach flap.
It's just like I'm gonna use the lungs as like a little tarp. You want to get into let's get personal?
Yes.
Okay. In the past, we were buried with our items. This made me actually think of a very because I read so much about ancient Egypt that I was like, your ancestors used to get buried with their stuff. So people used to get buried with their stuff, everything they would need for the afterlife. What would you bring to be buried with?
I guess like I mean, my first thoughts are like my phone. Can you imagine being in the afterlife without Google Maps? Like what, like how would you get around?
Yeah.
And then like, what if like you were trying to get to the pearly gates, but everything kept leading you back to the gates of hell? And you're like, no, but I want to get to at least judgment.
Why is the afterlife map quest?
Yeah. But it's just like there's no entry into heaven for you. It's like, but I put heaven into the Google Maps. It's like it's still the gates of hell for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
keep saying closed, and you're like, no, this said the hours from 7 to 7.
Yeah. Put me in my casket with my cast iron skillet. And I wish there's shit I cared about like that anymore. I don't know. I really don't know. Like
I made a list.
Okay. Just don't bury me next to you.
Oh no, they used to do that though. They would have like their like slaves and stuff, and I was like, first is Maria, and you're like, I'm like killing you.
There's a ton of street art in the afterlife, and I can't wait. I have a bulleted list, and I'm just let me rest.
Rest from you. So I kill all my friends. You need to be buried with me. So Pasta, she's gonna die before me. I said Netflix, and like I don't have a Kindle, but I would need to get a Kindle and then bring it with me. I just can't. I want to be entertained. I don't know like if I'm going to be busy in the afterlife, but like if I'm just chilling, I want to catch up on my shows and I want to catch up on a bunch of books.
Okay,
So
so if you watch Netflix from heaven, that is like watching TV through your neighbor's window. Like you can watch people and you can see what they're doing.
yeah, but isn't that like Sims? Like I'm just watching people like put on their shoes and like go to work. Like no, I want to
Well,
still be
no, you'd find
entertained.
people doing interesting things or yelling at each other or whatever. It's reality TV.
I don't like reality. I don't watch reality TV.
All
I
right, so
don't
you're
like
watching Netflix.
I want my Netflix. That's the funny thing is there's so many reality TV shows and then there's also people like airing their dirty laundry like on social media and stuff. And I'm just like, I want structure. I want a smart person with good dialogue talking about stuff I care about in an interesting way. And I also like cartoons.
Yeah, yeah. Plus, there's so much to see. It's like you'll have all the time in the world to catch up on it. Just quickly, do I have a black eye? Like, what's going on?
You have a black eye, but it looks like you rubbed because you've been rubbing your eye enough
It's
that you
so
rubbed.
irritated. I can't stop rubbing. It's been irritated since yesterday, and I'm just like,
Yeah, it's like red.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, but it's also I've watched you rub your eye like 90 times, so it makes sense that it would be a little agitated.
Tell me to stop.
Is that where we are? You're yelling at me for not yelling at you?
Yeah, I don't notice it. I've been doing it so much. I'm hurting myself. Like, just
Yeah.
hey, your eye.
But is it allergies?
I think so. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Cupcake. I honestly wouldn't have noticed the discoloration until you yelled at me for not yelling at you. Can I keep talking about what I want to be
next to you in the afterlife now?
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm like crossing off you. You should be proud. You're on my list. Pasta's on my list. Netflix is
I didn't
on
know
my
you could
list.
put people in there.
Oh yeah, I know that from reading about ancient Egypt when I was like 9. I was like, oh, my friend, like they said they're slaves, and they're people, but mine is like, I guess friendship slaves. I'm like, Maria has to come, Adrian has to come.
I'm not done living yet.
That was not taken into consideration. They were like, I'm dead, you're dead. And you're like, oh, could you imagine caring so much about someone's health that you're like, hey, she's so crazy that if she dies, I die. So we need to make, like, every time I eat sugar, you're like, no, you're going to have a salad.
There's a comedian here called Ariel Suma, one of the funniest girls I've ever met. She's French and she's fucking hilarious. And then she's talking about like how she was like, everybody's like, oh, if I die, I would want my partner to move on and find love. And she's like, fuck that. If I die, you die. And just like hearing her do that over and over again. So
that's awesome.
If I die, you die.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Let me continue with my list. Bubble tea.
Okay.
Hair gel or mousse. I'm not gonna have a bad hair day in the afterlife.
I see what's happening here. This is exactly as dynamic as when we travel, because you'll be at the afterlife fully fucking prepared, and I'd be like, I forgot underwear.
No, you're right. I am over preparing for my afterlife, where I'm just like, okay, I literally have my skincare stuff, my boots. Like, I'm like, hey, we don't know if it's gonna be cold there or hot there. So I brought shorts and I brought a snowsuit. Like, I was like, I don't know. What if heaven is over air conditioned? What if hell really is as hot as they say it is? I don't know where I'm going. Yeah. I need all my stuff.
I think I'd be fine with just like coffee and oat milk. I think it'll be good.
So like you just assume that like you're not going to do well with dairy, or dairy isn't a good idea.
I like oat milk. I actually like oat milk better than milk.
I'm still doing it. I'm still doing my oat milk.
Nice.
No, I just assumed like my afterlife, I'm either going to be an animal or I'm going to like be chilling somewhere where I have like too much free. I'm like scared that I'm going to have too much free time.
You can't even relax in death.
I know. That's why I have so much stuff. I'm like, my hair needs to be perfect and I need to be reading.
You're weirdly charming. Like, it's only because I love you that isn't totally infuriating.
Okay, you want to get into our topic?
Yeah.
Our topic this week is shame, which is interesting to me because I always go to Brene Brown's definition. I also read a whole book probably like 10 years ago. Crap, hope I looked up the title of the book. Oh yeah. I just called it the shame book for 10 years. Oh, I love this rubbing your eye off camera, showing your armpit move that was unsuccessful.
Here's what's gonna
now
happen.
You're rubbing your other eye.
Here's
if you want yelling.
No, here's what's gonna happen. You are going to re-say that because I have to edit all of that out because I saw my armpit. I was like, okay, enough.
Doing the breaststroke in the fucking camera. Our topic this week. Oh, you are a fucking mess. You're a goddamn mess.
I'm so like there's so much allergies. I'm dying. I am like, look at me, I'm a monster.
Okay, well, go take care of yourself.
Hell, what am I gonna do? It's happening.
We just need 15 minutes.
I know. I'll wear glasses.
You're like sneaking. You're like,
funny though, right?
It's very cute. You're also insane.
All right, maybe I can hide how awful I look. Yeah.
You don't look awful. Yeah, put a little shimmery glare.
Yeah, you can see all my. I'll just be like this the whole time.
Just giving me the side eye. What about shame, Liz?
Mm-hmm.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Our topic this week is shame. I often, when I think of shame, I always think of like Brene Brown. She wrote a book that I read 10 years ago. I called it the Shame Book. Because it's just such a long title, but I looked it up because I was like, that's not helpful to anybody that might want to get like a real education on this after our bullshit one. But it's called I Thought It Was Just Me, but it isn't. And the whole book is about how toxic shame is, like how almost all our decisions are based on shame and just how toxic and unhelpful it is. And it's mostly written for women, but how she defines it is helpful to everybody. It's just the example she gives her for women. And then the last chapter of the book is about men's shame. And women, it's like this very intricate, these are all the different things you can be shamed for. But what men, she always said, it's just not being man enough, which we kind of covered in our male depression episode, just the pressure that men have to be man enough and how claustrophobic and narrow-minded being man enough is, and how, whether conscious or conscious, every man is suffering from the shame that is either put on by society or their family or just themselves about what it means to be a man. But with women, it's so contradictory. I mean, with men too, there's a lot of contradictory, but with women, it's so all over the place where they're like, you need to have babies. And if you're not breastfeeding, you're a piece of shit and you have to be this size. But if you care about your size, and it's just like all over. And there's so much shame. But basically, shame is this intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that you are flawed and therefore unworthy of acceptance and belonging. And they make a big point to kind of show the difference between shame and guilt, because I think a lot of people, there's some guilt a part of it, but it's also very different. So guilt is holding something we've done or failed to do up against our values and feeling like a psychological discomfort. So I think guilt is like, I should have done something different. And shame is, I am flawed because of X, Y, and Z reasons, because I look this way, because I did this thing, because of who I am. I mean, I can give countless examples of what that looks like signs of shame, and we can go through it.
Okay.
Or we can just, all I know is Brene Brown's book. I cried the whole time reading it, by the way. I just don't think I realized how most of my thoughts are based on shame, like how much shame I felt.
Yeah, I read some of the examples, and I don't know what examples you're gonna read, but I was like, isn't just what people think? Like, isn't this
every day
people think?
It almost was like it literally was like every feeling I have, and I was like, oh, okay.
Okay, well, like what was the list?
So here are some signs of shame, and you can jump in and tell me ones that you've seen too. Feeling sensitive. I've always been insecure and felt like there's something wrong with me because I'm sensitive. Feeling unappreciated every day. Uncontrollable blushing. I think just like that's like a silly cartoon one in my mind.
Like Betty Boop.
Yeah. Okay. feeling used, feeling rejected, feeling like you have a little impact, being worried about what
Ooh,
others think of
feeling
you.
like you have little impact is a big one for me.
Yeah.
I feel totally, completely ignored.
One of our biggest triggers for both of us that I feel like we've talked about a million times throughout our life is feeling invisible. Like
Yeah.
the biggest trigger. I mean, that can be anything from somebody hitting me with their backpack and not even acknowledging that it happened. Like
Yeah.
I don't even, you can't even feel me physically. And I'm not even worth an apology, to just submitting something or writing an email and somebody not getting back to me. Like the range throughout the day of feeling ignored, or like my being here doesn't matter. It sits at the top of my heart. Like I'm just constantly having to be like, you matter. They were busy, or they didn't have that much in their backpack, therefore they couldn't feel that they just hit you with it. Like,
Yeah.
being worried what other people think of you every day. Although that is one of the ones that, like, this book really helped me understand that that's not helpful, or that is in some ways controlling how I feel. And I work more, like, I still get triggered by how people feel, but I'm able to kind of pull it down and be like, this doesn't matter. Like, I do a lot of self-talking, but I can work through that. Worrying that you aren't treated with respect. Agreed. Like, feel that. Feeling like others take advantage of you. I've suffered from that. Wanting to have the last word. That one I was just like, how does that have to do with shame? But I guess it's like, you need to be in control, or otherwise someone has something over you.
Mm.
Not showing your thoughts and feelings because you are afraid to be embarrassed. I mean, it's going to sound like that. I can't relate to that because that's all we do is talk about our feelings. But on a personal level, I completely feel that way.
With who? I
Um,
mean, like who, as an example in your life, would you not share your thoughts and feelings with? Like a family member or a barista? Because it's not audiences.
it's not audiences, but it could be a booker, it could be a fellow comic, it could be it could be a barista. Like, the fear of uh being too much, or the fear of asking too much, or the fear of being a problem, the fear of being yelled at back. Like, there's so many things. The fear of being wrong. Like, there's so many things that impact me on a personal level where I won't actually express myself. Also, the fear of overreacting, because I am a very reactive person and I've worked really hard to not be that way. That sometimes in a certain situation, I won't speak up because I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth.
Right.
Being afraid to look inappropriate or stupid. That's my everyday.
I remember showing up in fifth grade to a friend's birthday party, and my mom had dressed me in this like really beautiful, frilly, lacy dress. And I wore pearl earrings. I was like, oh, I'm going to a birthday party. I might as well have
Yeah.
had like silk gloves on.
Yeah.
And it's fifth grade, and everyone had leggings and t-shirts on. And I was so overdressed and so embarrassed. And then so she wanted to give me some leggings to wear to, like, because I looked ridiculous.
Who
And
did?
but the birthday girl, because I was at her house, but she's tiny, tiny stick figure, like, and I was curvy, like I had a big butt even at 10, and I
Yeah.
couldn't fit into her leggings, and like it was just like, and I swear to God, I carried that into adulthood. Like, I'm so terrified of being overdressed that I chronically underdress for everything.
I'm the same way.
Really?
Absolutely the same way. And I think my dad was, I don't think I have that pivotal, like, I was overdressed and I never, but I've always, my dad wanted us to always look nice, whatever that was. It never really corresponded with how I felt or how society felt. But
Yeah.
I think I'm a chronic underdresser because of that.
Yeah.
And that, like, if you just wear jeans and a ripped t-shirt, yeah, you might not fit in, but you look cool as fuck. Like, you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
totally. Yeah. I think I would like to dress, like, I think I would have like a dressier style if I didn't, maybe if I didn't experience that at 10. I haven't thought about it in a while. And I was like, oh my God, like that, because of that, I was just like so afraid to look nice. Like,
Do you
um,
know, like, I've been invited to certain things and I find myself hounding the person to invite me to ask what the dress code is. Like, I
really?
was invited to this like charity ball thing and I was like, "Oh, okay, what's the dress code?" And they're just like, "Just look nice." And you're like, "No." What is the dress code? Like,
Specific rules.
yeah. Like, is this a black tie event? Are people like, can I wear a dress with sneakers? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, but like, I find myself almost aggressively asking for the rules because I am scared to not fit into this thing. And I don't want to be wearing a ball gown to a 5th grade party.
Absolutely. Yeah. I opened for a girl who like she lives in LA, but she was in London. She said, "Can you open for me at this members club?" And I was like, "Sure." And I wore what I wear every day. And then I looked at her and she looked like she was on the cover of a magazine. And I swear to God, I disappointed her. Like, and she like gave me earrings to wear to just like spruce it up a bit.
But you just tell people,
Yeah.
like, especially us, because we do, like, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I don't look like a 36-year-old woman. Some of it is our face. Like, some of it is just, we didn't, but some of it is because I've had zero reason to dress like an adult. I don't go to a job where I have to wear heels and a pencil skirt. I don't have kids where I have to like dress somewhat appropriately for student, teacher meetings or the fact that I'm somebody that has children. I didn't have to update. I'm wearing exactly what I wore at 21.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
which is just jeans and like a t-shirt, but like, it's still like, I have dresses that I've worn only in my room because I have no reason to wear them.
Yeah.
And I want to, but I also don't even put myself in situations that I would need them. And then what's more upsetting is you do a gig like that where you would have loved to wear a nice dress, but you didn't know.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you tell me, hey, this is a members only thing? I would probably dress like you're going to a charity.
And I've done members clubs before. You don't dress up. Like,
Yeah.
by the way, she's from LA. She knows the more dressed you are in LA, the less important person you are in the room. That's just the rule of thumb. If you're wearing sweatpants and a shirt with holes in it and stains, you're fucking like you're basically
you're a millionaire.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Let's find other things.
Being more worried about failure than doing something. Is that our whole career?
Yeah, we do push ourselves through that, but yes.
Oh, sorry. No, I misread it. Being more worried about failure than doing something immoral. Being a perfectionist, feeling like an outsider or that you are different or left out.
That's me all the time.
Yeah.
With everything. Yeah.
Every aspect. Feeling suspicious or like you can't trust others. I absolutely struggle with that. Not wanting to be the center of attention. Weirdly enough, even with comedy, again, outside of comedy, I don't like being the center of attention. Being a wallflower or a shrinking violet. Never heard the term shrinking violet before. Have you?
I don't think so. It didn't feel like weird to hear, but I don't like remember.
I really liked it though. I was like, ooh, shrinking violet. Who came up with that? Wanting to shut people out or withdraw, feeling like you can't be your true self. Definitely feel connected to that. Trying to hide yourself or be inconspicuous, losing your identity, feeling inadequate, and then feeling of regret, feeling dishonorable. What I find interesting about this, and this is something we've kind of talked about before, some aspects of my life, I do not feel that way. And then in other aspects, I do. So in some aspects, I absolutely feel like I can be myself with my friends, but I don't feel like I can be myself with parts of my family or with a partner. Or I feel like I can be my true self on stage, but I don't feel like I can actually tell people over here or here. Like, it's very I can never say this word, compartmentalized, where there's shame. Like, I think in my mind, I was like, well, I don't feel shame because I don't feel it here. Or I feel super open and connected because I do it over here. But where I was being honest and open on stage, I was being closed off and not myself in a relationship. Or if I was being myself with friends, I wasn't able to be truly myself with my comedy. Like, it was like, I feel like it's these shame shifting tiles that go from one aspect of my life to another.
Yeah.
But that list is so encompassing that I was like, did they just describe my personality?
I mean, it does feel like everyone would be like, yeah, I have that. I do feel a lot of that towards performing and sharing my material on social media because I'm terrified of like comments and I don't know. It's like in the room, I feel like I can control it or like respond more or something. I don't know what it is, but I'm like terrified of putting it up on social media.
Well, you have to understand that, and I've always felt this way, a comedy club creates context. I am a comedian. You are paying to see me. This is comedy. Whether you would like it or not, this is a safe space. The internet isn't. The internet is where you go to see, you go to Google stuff, find maps, look at cat pictures, like a friend's vacation. It's so all encompassing that when you throw a joke into the ether, one, they might not know it's a joke. Two, they might have a visceral reaction to it. And three, they have complete access to you. There's no barrier. There's no bouncers. There's no other audience. It's just this sea of, and it's overwhelming because there's no rules anymore. There's no rules of what I'm posting and what this actually means and who I am. And like, there literally is structure to a comedy club. There is no structure to the internet, even when it's Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. And then especially if something goes viral. I mean, at the end of the day, if I bomb, very few people are yelling, "You're ugly" or "fat" or "kill yourself" as I'm getting off stage.
Because they're all huh? They're all, you know what I mean? They wouldn't do it in person. They'll do it on the internet.
Yeah. But as soon as somebody doesn't like something I do, the most viral, mean shit that can be said is said to me, where, keep in mind, pretty traceable. Like, you just click on the person and now I can see all your friends and family. Your dog's ugly. You're ugly. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it's so funny that somebody's just like, "You're ugly." And you're like, "Hey man, so are you. What are we doing here?"
Yeah.
Like, what is this? This is insane. But no, I completely understand the fear but like, also, just that fear is based on shame. You've been shamed into believing that you have to be this perfect person to be accepted and loved. And I mean, I had this epiphany maybe like 6 months ago that I have confidence and self-esteem that I've been longing for years. And like, even with therapy, I was like, I don't understand how I can be happier, but I still struggle with like my self-esteem and my confidence. And what I've learned personally, and this is just not from reading, just from experience, that I have these really strong morals. Like, I have a very strong character and very strong morals of how I think I should be. I definitely feel like people should be like this, but at the end of the day, I can only control myself. And I feel like I have these morals and these beliefs about myself. And when I don't do them, I somehow have brought shame to myself. But as I've learned through therapy and skills and tools and self-soothing, when I am not reactive, when I'm not a bully to myself, when I'm not mean or reactive, like all these kind of things that I was ashamed of, when I don't do them, I now take pride in myself. Like, a good example is, it took me 2 hours to get home on Monday night. I was so annoyed. I thought my spot time was 9, only to find out that the show started at 9. So I'm like, now I hate waiting around. The only kind of power I feel in the city is that I know my spot time. I show up, I do my thing, I leave. And I had a shit ton of stuff to do because I had to shoot something I had to be in Queens at 6 a.m. for a shoot. So I want to go home. I want to shower. I want to get ready so that I can wake up at 4, roll out of bed, and go to the shoot. And I'm not on stage until 9:30. I don't catch the train until after 9:45, which is when all the trains got fucked. It took me 4 trains to get home. It took me over 2 hours to get home. So I was supposed to be home by 10, and I got home almost at midnight. It was insane.
Yeah.
And the whole time I was like, all right, let me figure out how I get home, what I'm supposed to do. Read a book, got organized, talked to other people. Like, literally, they were like, "Hey, is this," because nobody could figure out, because the train was going back and forth as opposed to one direction and then another direction. So I'm like, "No, this is the train that goes to Hoyt Skimmelhorn. Then you're going to transfer to this, to this, to this." And like, I'm now being a vessel of hope and encouragement. It's going to be all right. This is how you do it. And also, I'm just like, what can I do on the train to keep busy? And I didn't lose my cool. And I've had other examples of this, but I was just like, you know what? You'll get home. You don't fall asleep until 1 a.m. anyway. You'll have time. It'll be fine. Yes, I could have taken a cab, but again, it pisses me off to spend money I shouldn't have to spend when I have a monthly card. But I was able to kind of control my thoughts. And that's where I've learned my self-esteem and my confidence has come from, is that I'm in a situation that's out of my control, and I'm handling it in a way that I respect how I'm handling it. And I think in a lot of ways, people have these rules for themselves, whether they were put in place by their parents, whether they're put in place by society, whatever it is. And when they fall outside, and some of these rules need to be changed, by the way. So, you know, some of the rules instilled in me was that you have to be perfect and everything needs to be, and that's, you can't live up to that. So therapy has fixed some of the rules because they were unlivable anyway. But then also, I don't want to be somebody that flies off the handle. I don't want to be somebody that's unhelpful. I don't want to be somebody that's constantly yelling or uncomfortable. So when I'm in a place where I can calm myself or calm others, I feel good about myself. But I think in general, what I've learned about shame is that there's stuff that's put on us that we have to learn how to put parameters on. You know, I can't be you know, the size everybody wants me to be. I can't be somebody that lives the life that other people think I should be living. You know, I have to find out what my rules and what's important to me, and then figure out how to live up to them. But then also be forgiving, because the truth of the matter was I was exhausted and I was stressed. And if I didn't handle it well, I could be like, hey, you know, we'll try again next time. It's okay to not be the best version of yourself all the time. So I think it's also like sometimes holding yourself to these standards that are either impossible or too high to hold themselves to. And I think when you start to be forgiving to yourself, you become very forgiving to other people. And in some ways, I've always been forgiving to other people and not to myself. But I've learned as I become forgiving to myself, I become even more forgiving to other people. Like
Yeah.
a good example was I was ranting when you were here about people that listen to stuff without headphones.
Yeah.
And I cannot, in my mind, I'm like, there's zero reason. Homeless people have headphones. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, there's zero reason. And you were the one that gave me context where you're just like, actually, it often when people find themselves in zero position of power, this is where they can take control of the situation, and that they feel like they have power. And you said it much more eloquently than I'm saying it. And I was like, oh yeah. And it actually, since that you've told me that, it's made me more forgiving, because
That's
I'm
cool.
like, because
Yeah.
there's a part of me that was just kind of so angry, crazy about it that I could not see them as people. And then all of a sudden I was just like, hey, if this is what makes you feel better about your life being shitty and out of control, blast that music.
Yeah.
Blast your weird grime music that I don't get or understand. Or like on the subway at midnight.
Yeah, it's funny how just like a little reframing can actually be like, okay, all right, I can see it that
Yeah.
way. I
Yeah.
couldn't understand it at all before, but I can see it now.
Yeah. So there's 4 categories of shame. There's the hot response. You know, when you feel ashamed, you get defensive, you lash out, you attack, da 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 da. I think understanding your responses to shame makes you understand that you are in shame. So lashing out, you're in shame. Behaviors to cope with or conceal your shame. So you make yourself feel small, trying to avoid being the center of attention, not showing your thoughts and feelings. Then there's safety behaviors to avoid shame or being discovered, apologizing, crying, avoiding conflict. And then there's number 4, behaviors to repair shame, doing things to soothe yourself or apologize to others. So I think some of it is you don't even understand that you're in shame. You just think, well, this is how you're supposed to respond, or, you know, I'm mad. But like, this is a thing where it's like, I don't know how you really fix it other than understanding it.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things of like just recognizing it first, and then probably it's and I don't have these tools yet, but I think you got some of them in therapy, and I think that you try to help me with it every once in a while, because but recognizing, like, once you can recognize you feel that way, it's like, what do you say to yourself to like to kind of see a bigger picture, or how you can view it differently. Like if I and we'll use an example of like what happened to you the other day with like the internet, like internet trolls, right? And if that's, I'm afraid to like post my content because of internet trolls, and then you're like, well, like, how's that working out for you? Because I'm just going to die in obscurity. You know what I mean? Like there's got to be a better way to like see this stuff. Like that's just shame that's keeping me from posting it. It's not that like,
And they're winning.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And that shame, it controls, like, people use shame to control people. Look at it in the bigger picture. Like, we're telling, you know, a good example is a woman wore like a bigger woman wore like a 2-piece bathing suit, and she got inundated with comments that are like, you're too fat to wear a 2-piece, or you don't have a body for a 2-piece. And you're like, who the fuck says? Who
Yeah.
the fuck says that? So what they do is when you do it, they bully you and try to get you to not be, but half the time those people feel that shame because they don't have that body and society has told them that, but also they're trying to control other people. So once you start to understand other people, somebody saying that you don't have a body for a toothpiece, all of a sudden you can go, oh, that's so sad that they feel that way. That has almost nothing to do with me. That has everything to do with that they believe there's only one type of body that can wear certain clothes and they don't fit into it. And because they don't fit into it, they believe I don't fit into it. But you know what? Your rules don't control me.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the same thing with comedy. Like I just posted a comment the other day that it was something like feminism has lied to you. All women aren't funny. You should try to do something else. You know, it's so ridiculous that there's no part of me that feels anything
Right.
other than like, oh, sorry, I didn't know. I'll quit my life. Like,
Yeah. I'll quit my life.
like, but like, there's a part of me that's like, that's so sad that that man feels so, like not only because really you could say, oh, he doesn't think women should be doing this. No, there's so many rules that he can't live up to that he's like, no, you can't be doing this. I can't be doing this. There's so many things that we're not allowed to do. How dare you go out there and live your life?
Yeah.
I would love, I mean, first of all, I want to know what you're going to be buried with from our Let's Get Personal. I think that would be a fun one. But I guess I would like to know like where you kind of discovered that you had shame that you didn't even realize it was shame and like what you had to do to, and what you still probably have to do to coerce yourself to be the person that you want to be because society has shamed you. Like, I think there's so many intricate different examples that people would be like, we talk about the comedy aspect of it. I think women talk about the body aspect of it, but I think there's so many intricate things that people could bring up. So you can write to us at two non-doctors. That's two non full word doctors at gmail.com. And we will see you guys next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.